Welcome in Shabbat, page 142 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu, Tzeitzchem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Great to see you. I know we started a few minutes late because we were just so happy chatting with everyone. It's really great to be together, and we'll have an opportunity to continue those conversations, of course, in our Oneg Shabbat. But for now, it's just this time to be in the quiet of the sanctuary. There's something I think about being in a sanctuary of what that word actually means, to be able to be in a space that is so different from the rest of the world, to just be in community, in prayer, in the space that we need as we bid farewell to this week that was and enter into sacred time. So to do that, we're going to transform ourselves into Shabbat mode by bringing in light into our sanctuary. And I want to invite Gili and Ella to come join us for the reading before the lighting of the Shabbat candles. It's on page 121.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As the brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our one way, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת. Thank you.
Thank you.
So a few weeks ago, during the intermediate days of Passover, I got to go home and visit with my parents in California. And while I was there in my childhood bedroom, I found this little book that I decided to take home with me called The Little Book of Mindfulness. And so there's a little intention that I found in there that I wanted to share with you tonight as we start Kabbalat Shabbat that is for increasing gratitude. It says, "We need only remember when we were children who gazed at the sky and the drifting clouds. There was nothing to do, nothing to achieve. There was no notion of time or any guilt for wasting it. Time and guilt are concepts that we learn about much later in life." I think Shabbat is that time, as you were saying, Rabbi Brown, to be in the sanctuary, to bring in this special part of the week that's kind of separate, time for rest, not a time to worry about what we have to do or get done or achieve, but just a time to breathe and be together. So we're going to start Kabbalat Shabbat, page 130, with Lechu Neranena. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai. Lechu Neranena l'Adonai, nari'a letzur yishenu. Lechu Neranena l'Adonai, nari'a letzur yishenu. Mekadma fana betoda, bizmirot nari'a lo. Mekadma fana betoda, bizmirot nari'a lo. Yalai lai 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 lai, ai lai 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 lai, ai lai 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 lai, ai lai 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 lai, yalai lai 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 lai, ai lai 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 lai, ai lai 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 lai, ai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai 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 lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai 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 lai, yalai lai. On the next page, 131, Shiru Ladonai. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Baruchu Shemo, Basru miyom leyom Yeshuato, Sapru v'goyim kevodo bechol ha'amim nifleotav, ki gadol Adonai u'mulam leot norahu al kol Elohim. Ay 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 alay lalay lay alay lalay lay alay lalay lay alay lalay alay lalay lay alay lalay lay alay lalay lay alay lalay alay lalay lay alay 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 lalay lay alay lalay lay ay lay 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 ay lay 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 ay lay lay lay. Continuing on page 133, Psalm 98. Mizmor shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, ki niflaot asa Shabbat Eloheinu, Hariu El Adonai, Kol haaretz yitzchu v'ranenu v'zamer. Yalalai, 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 top of page 134, Zamru Ladonai, Zameru Ladonai Bechinor, Bechinor V'kol Zimra, Zameru Ladonai Bechinor, Bechinor V'kol Zimra, Zameru, Zamru, That tune is by an Israeli band, actually, called Nava Tehillah. Daphne Rosenberg, one of the members of that group, wrote it, and they hold these services, this group, renewal group, in Jerusalem, in this basement of a synagogue, if you've been there. And everyone sits in the round, and there's instruments, and they have these tunes that kind of repeat and repeat together, and everyone's singing, and it kind of builds, and it's so special. That tune always just transports me back to Jerusalem. So, thank you for sharing it with me. We're ready now to turn to Lecha Dodi, page 138. Welcoming in the Sabbath bride, or the Shabbat bride. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Shabbat nekabela, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, ishmiyanu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad uv'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litzila. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Shabbat nekabela, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 2, likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, hi mekor ha'beracha, merosh mikeden mesucha, sofa hazeh b'machshava tchila. Verse 5, Hitoreri, Hitoreri, Hiva oret, Umi ori, Uri last verse. Goyi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, tov amunei am segula, boi chala. Facing front, last time, all together, let's hear you. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mekabela, b'nei Shabbat mekabela.
We'll remain standing as we turn to page 263. We welcome Shabbat now with Kabbalat Shabbat. We're ready to begin our Ma'ariv evening service.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
ועל מה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, מחייכנו וביומכנו וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו,
אמן.
יש מרבה מבורך, לעולם עולם והמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה
בריחו
לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. Page 265, we read together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, bechokma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam tamid imloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Amen.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך, לעולם לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נגן יומם ולילה ואהבתך. אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך ופומך, ושרתם מאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Amen. We'll turn now to page 270 as we join together singing Mi Chamocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה לינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד. כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Amen.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Amen. At the bottom of the page, Baruch atah Adonai, הבורא סוכת שלום, עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים.
So in my house on Shabbat, the kids know that on Shabbat morning they get to have challah and Nutella. It's their thing, and maybe they take a little too much of the Nutella. Sometimes the challah doesn't even make it, but they know that it's a Shabbat treat, that it's something that's really special for only on Shabbat. I'm not saying you should have Nutella in the morning on Shabbat. You can, though, if you want to. You have my permission. But I think it's really important to do things like that, to have these rituals that make today feel different. And we do have rituals like lighting the candles and Kiddush and all of those different things, but to allow ourselves to indulge in life, to really to take in the joy and the sweetness and the blessing that is our lives, that makes Shabbat just feel different. So let's sing together Vishamru, page 272.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ים ברי די די, שבת שבת, ים ברי די די, Shabbat, Shabbat, yam badadai. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim et haaretz ubayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Yam badadai Shabbat, Shabbat, yam badadai Shabbat, Shabbat, yam badadai Shabbat, 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 Shalom.
We rise together now for the Amidah, beginning on page 274.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים מטרה והושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עבר. מי כמוך בגבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated as we continue now on page 279, Ritzeh.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu ve'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel u'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael Yisrael Amecha El Karov Lechol Korav Penei El Avadecha Vechoneinu Shefoch Ruchacha Aleinu V'techezena Eineinu ושובך לציון ברחמים. ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו לציון.
I recently have been going through a lot of our things at home, and I found this box of old pictures. And I found amazing things. Like I found a picture of my childhood turtle that made me so happy to see. But I saw all these pictures of my relatives, many of whom have died, but to see them in these really just casual, candid photographs was incredible. It was moments at my parents' house for a birthday party or a holiday or something like that. And because I hadn't seen these pictures in so long, there were moments that I actually had forgotten about. And then I got to go back and to see them. And I felt so grateful to be able to have that encounter again with that moment, with those people, with those memories. And I think there really is something incredible about those moments, in particular with memory, when we can go back and just have that touch point. So that is something I feel especially grateful for this week and the Shabbat. Maybe you have those moments too where you had that just little brief glimmer of something special or epiphany that really makes you grateful as well. So we're going to sing our blessing of gratitude as we join together on page 280, 4 lines from the bottom. Ve'al nisecha shebechol yom imanu.
Ve'al nisecha shebechol yom erev v'boker v'tzoraim me'olam kivinu lach me'olam kivinu lach hatov ki lo chalu rachamecha ve'hamrachem ki lo tamu chasadecha me'olam kivinu lach me'olam kivinu lach.
Shalom Rav, page 282.
This is a new tune that I brought in a couple weeks ago just to change it up a little bit, but I think it also just brings a new and different meaning to these words. So it goes like this. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Try it. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Ki Ata hu Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom HaShalom B'tov B'tov Beinecha Levarech et Amcha Levarech et Amcha Yisrael. Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Bechol et ubechol shah bishlomecha. Last time. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
Let's take a moment now as individuals for silent prayer. I invite you to turn to page 371, in the middle of that page for our Misha Berach, as we call into our hearts and our prayers those who are ill, struggling with different health issues, that they might find healing. We think particularly the Shabbat of Pesha Bat Vera, Naomi DeZormo, Julian Carney, Eli Pont, Asher Gavriel Ben Mordechai Yehoshua Vasar Elishev, Riley Tregabov, Isabel Somech, Sigrapi Pramko, Richard Schwartzstein, Milton Lackman, David Coulter, Apollonia Wilczynski, Nelson Rudlier, Paula Freeman, Loretta Atkins, Elena Cobb, Annette Albert, Bill Cohen, Carla Zivit, Rose Godfrey, Doris Medved, Janet Gelb, Jean Angus, Bob Fanning, Avram Sudak, Merle Granberg, Yehudit Bat Avraham Basara, Ralph Schulman, Judy Steiner Lossberg, Sanford Cohen, David Shlomo Gorney, Andrea Jarsbiak. If there are other people you're thinking of and you'd like to share their names, you can stand and share them at this time.
Melody Parker.
Mi sheberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom again, everyone. I'll share a few different announcements of things coming up here at the shul in our community. Next Shabbat is really exciting. We're going to have another band Shabbat, so we're looking forward to that. Always really nice to have a very musical Shabbat. Before our regular 8 o'clock service, there is a special Shabbat dinner for our next generation group, those in their 20s and 30s. It's going to be an Israeli-themed dinner in honor of Yom Ha'atzmaut, which was this week. And it should be really great. So if you'd like to join us, if you're in that demographic, looking over here, okay, then please do. We hope to see you there. Our younger crew, kids in grades 4 to 7, who are part of our junior BBYO group, are invited for an indoor beach party on Sunday, May 15th, at the indoor beach in Richmond. That will be right after religious school, so you can register online for that as well. Looking forward to our next kind of major Jewish holiday, which is Shavuot, we are joining together, as we have for the past few years, in collaboration with Beth Israel, as well as Harel. This year, we are going to be joining together for the evening. It's traditional on Erev Shavuot, the evening of Shavuot, to gather together and study. And it's going to be, I think, a lot of fun. It will be at Beth Israel this year. It's at 8:30. This is Saturday night, June 4th. There'll be a Marif, there will be a program, some learning. We're actually going to be, the program is about the meaning behind lots of different Jewish foods, including cheesecake. So to understand why we eat cheesecake on Shavuot, so you'll have to come. And then we'll eat cheesecake, so you'll get both of those things. Our men's club is joining together for an outing to a Canadians baseball game on June 18th, so that's always fun. So you can join them for that by registering online. And then finally, just an update about our different refugee groups that we've been helping out over the years. As many of you know, it's an important part of kind of as we see our mission as a congregation to help those who are fleeing persecution to find safety here in Canada. We have been for a number of years working with a couple, a Syrian-Kurdish couple, Esther and Zara, and they are actually scheduled to come on May 19th. So we are very, very excited to welcome them to Vancouver and to our community. So there'll be opportunities to meet and to spend time with them, and help them learn about our wonderful city. In addition, as you maybe saw an email from our congregation, there's an effort really across the broader Jewish community in Vancouver to welcome Ukrainian newcomers who are coming right now to Canada for safety during this really difficult time of war. Temple Sholom is really spearheading an effort to form welcome circles. The JFS and other organizations are helping with a lot of the social services, but this is an effort to create connections and community for those newcomers. There are going to be groups of about 6 to 8 people together, and we're just about to start forming those groups. Many of you signed up online already with both your interest and your skills and expertise that you can lend to this effort. So if you would like to join us in doing this, I think it'll be very meaningful. Please register, and as well, there is an opportunity for those who might have relatives or friends in Ukraine or elsewhere in Europe, perhaps, who are wanting to come to Canada. There's going to be an information session on Thursday, May 12th, this coming week, with immigration lawyers to learn more about the process and how to do that. So there's information in your handout for that. So one of the most memorable experiences I had when I was just a wee young rabbi was years ago on a 10th grade confirmation trip to Washington, D.C. This is when I had my first pulpit in Boston. And we did this every single year. It was a trip with these 10th graders to travel to an organization called the RAC, the Religious Action Center, which is the advocacy arm of the Reform movement. And the RAC ran these really amazing seminars. They ran them actually multiple times a year because so many synagogues like to send their students. And they would come for a long weekend, and they would teach them about the legislative process, and they would study different policy issues and learn Jewish texts on those topics. And then the students could choose whatever topic they were passionate about, and we would go up to Capitol Hill on Monday, and they would get to lobby our senators and representatives. So there was one year, I don't remember which year it was, but we were staying in this hotel, and there was another parallel group of teenagers who were also in the hotel doing a similar kind of trip. They were there to lobby and to learn. And the morning we were going to Capitol Hill that Monday, everyone was dressed up very professionally to go to storm the hill. And we were riding down in the elevator. It was some of my students from the synagogue, and some of this other group came in the elevator. And after we had a little small talk, it became very clear that we were actually going to be going up to Capitol Hill to lobby opposite sides of the same issue. It was a little awkward at first, but the students, everyone was polite, and we realized that, of course, that they were going to lobby, that my students were there to lobby for protections for reproductive health, and the other students were there to lobby to strike down Roe versus Wade. And what happened was that we kept seeing each other all day on Capitol Hill. We would go in building to building, and we would see each other, and then it kind of was funny, and we would wave and say hello. But it so happened that there was the last meeting we had of the day that one of the staffers of the senator whose office we were in pulled me aside, and she said, you know, when we found out you were a religious group coming to lobby and that some of your students were going to speak about reproductive rights and access to abortion, we didn't think that they would be coming to talk about stronger protections for abortion rights. I saw Religious Action Center on the agenda and figured it would be the opposite. You know, the assumption that religion is a monolith, particularly about this topic of abortion, is in many ways an issue of religious freedom that shows that oftentimes in our kind of North American societies that Christianity is centered as the arbiter of all things sacred. Jewish law, of course, does not share the belief that is common among abortion opponents that life begins at conception, nor does it legally consider the fetus to be a full person deserving of protections equal to those accorded to the mother. In Jewish law, a fetus attains the status of a full person only at birth. Sources in the Talmud indicate that prior to 40 days of gestation, that the fetus has an even more limited legal status, with one part of the Talmud asserting that prior to 40 days, the fetus is, quote, mere water. In a situation, we learn, in which a pregnant person's life is in danger from the pregnancy or from labor, Jewish law is abundantly clear. The mother's life takes precedence. The only situation in which that comes into question is if the birth is already more than half completed, that is, if the baby has already, the head has come forward. Implicit in this Mishnah, as Rabbi David Feldman put it, is the teaching that the rights of the fetus are secondary to the rights of the mother, all the way until the moment of birth. Now, sometimes I'm not sure, still even after being here in Canada for almost 11 years, how to bring current American events into the Bima, if at all. After all, there are no laws in Canada restricting abortion. It's treated as a medical procedure between a doctor and a patient. But I couldn't let this week pass without responding to the news of this leaked draft to overturn Roe versus Wade. In truth, it was on Tuesday when I was here teaching and talking with a number of different members of our congregation that I saw how shaken, it was actually a sisterhood group, how shaken all of the women were to see this news. And I realized, of course, it's all of our issue too, that we need to consider what this means to us as Canadian Jews. Beyond our considerations of Jewish law, which make abortion access a fundamental right of our own religious freedom, is also our Jewish responsibility to care for others. The stripping away of the right to bodily autonomy lands disproportionately on those who are already most vulnerable. The impacts of this decision will land hardest on people who are poor. People with financial resources will be able to travel to other states to access abortions, and also will be able to come here to Canada. But that takes money, it takes a passport, it takes time, childcare, among other things, and many will find themselves in the most difficult of decisions. It is deeply troubling. Now, of course, as Jews, certainly for myself as a rabbi, when I am troubled, I turn to Torah. And it's in this week's parashat Kedoshim, that it begins, Kedoshim tihiyu. You must be holy, for I, your God, am holy. But the charge, Kedoshim tihiyu, is in the plural, in the collective. This is not about singular individual holiness. These are instructions for communal righteousness. Sometimes Torah speaks in poetry and metaphor, but this Shabbat Torah gives us a very concrete call to justice. How do we act Kiddushim as holy people? We feed the hungry. We don't withhold the workers' wages until morning. We don't place a stumbling block before the blind. We do not stand idly by the blood of our neighbor. These verses from this parasha are so important. We actually hear them twice a year. We hear them this Shabbat as well as on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. A sacred society, a righteous society, Torah says, is one that centers the needs of the most vulnerable. And we must not stand idly by when others are harmed. Striking down Roe versus Wade would cause unthinkable harm, and the greatest harm will fall on those whose lives are already most precarious. We must not stand idly by and ignore the suffering that this would engender. We must not stand idly by as basic human rights are withdrawn from women who stand to lose the right to make basic decisions about their health and autonomy. Our tradition teaches that all of us are responsible for one another. Those of us who are not personally at risk of harm still have an obligation to those who are. In 1988, the Supreme Court of Canada struck down Canada's abortion law as unconstitutional. The law was found to violate Section 7 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms because it infringed upon a woman's right to life, liberty, and security of person. But we cannot be complacent about our status. As we know, things can change in a society, and we cannot take for granted our freedoms. Complacency can cause great unanticipated change. But for now, while remaining vigilant, of course, here, we think about what role we might play for those who are across the border and might find themselves severely cut off from this access. So you might remember when the Syrian refugee crisis peaked a number of years ago, there were actually many American congregations who were not able to bring refugees to the US, but wanted to help us here. And many sponsored and helped us sponsor refugee families that have become part of our Vancouver community, and now Esther and Zara, as I mentioned. I just want to say, as an aside, that one of the refugees that we sponsored a number of years ago is actually on the committee to bring Esther and Zara and to settle them here. And it's such an incredible connection to have seen that. But I want to mention that maybe there will be an opportunity for us to do the same for those American congregations who are helping those who need access to this kind of reproductive health care. I hope that in any ways that we are called upon to help, that we will do our utmost to answer the call. Abortion is not only permitted in Jewish law, but it is required when the life of the mother is in danger. We must not remain idle while barriers to health care place any individual's health, well-being, autonomy, or economic security at risk. Reproductive justice is indeed a Jewish issue. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to turn now to counting this period between Passover and Shavuot, this period of Omer. The intention and our prayer that Cantor Cohen will lead for us.
You'll find the words page 570, where we start with this intention. L'Shem Yichud, Kudsha Brichu Ushchinte. L'Shem Yichud. L'Shem Yichud, Kudsha Brichu Ushchinte. Hineni Muchan, Hineni Muchan u'Mezuman, לקיים מצוות עשה של ספירת העומר, של ספירת העומר, של ספירת העומר, של ספירת העומר. 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה, 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה. יאללה לילה, יאללה לילה, יאללה לילה, יאללה לילה, yayla light. We'll continue with the blessing on that page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu asfirat ha'omer, asfirat ha'omer, asfirat ha'omer, asfirat ha'omer. Hayom echad v'esrim yom shehem 3 Shavuot. La'omer, la'omer. Yayla layla, yayla layla, yayla layla, yayla layla, yayla layla, yayla layla. Today is 21 days of the Omer.
As we turn now to 586, I'll invite everyone to please rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Turn to page 594, share this reading before the Kaddish. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. We turn to 598 for the Kaddish. We share the names of those we are remembering, especially the Shabbat, and I invite you as I read the name of your loved one to please stand as you honor their memory. In Shloshim for Joanne Susan Cox, Diane Kurland, Layla Sachs, Ethel Scholl, and Ralph Schulman. And we mark yahrzeit this week of Sam Abelson, Dave Adirim, Ken Ain, Jack Acknan, Solomon Bild, Israel Bookman, Albert Brody, George Soti, Harry Davis, Esther Fishman, Nathan Godfrey, Isidore Goldstein, Lena Goldstein, Nora Goldstein, Jack Golub, Saul Gutman, Cindy Haas, Henry Hister, Jan Eisen, Charlotte James, Eudice Kaplan, Bluma Davis Korn, Estelle Levitt, Harold Mann, Donna Moskowitz, Sam Muchnick, Reginald Myers, Mary Maisko, Janet Nayrod, Dr. Howard Netter, Rabbi Aaron Pankin, Jerry Rayson, George Edwards Robbins, Eileen Rodnudsky, Kaya Rootman, Beverly Rosenzweig, Peter Anthony Ross, Laszlo Rostas, Toby Rubenstein, Bella Samuels, Judith Shapiro, Gary Joseph Simpkin, Henry Voth, Erwin Winston, Avram Zilberstein. There are others who have come to say Kaddish. I invite you to stand and share the name of your loved one aloud at this time. We stand together as a congregation beside those who mourn. I invite those who will to join in page 598 in these words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlam araba min shemayim, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru,
Amen.
amen. Yehi zichronam livracha, may their memories always be a blessing. As we say together, amen.
Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. We're going to join together for Kiddish and Hamotzi. If you'd like to follow along, it's on page 122. Yael and Sarah, do you want to do it?
Yeah, get on up here.
You want to do Kiddish and Hamotzi?
ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בשבת קודשו באהבה ורצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש. זכר ליציאת מצרים.
כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך לאהבה ורצון הנחלתנו.
ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
It's juice. Yeah. Don't share with. We're not. We're still in that part of the pandemic. Okay.
Well.
Take off the color covers here.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Take a little bit.
Thank you. So for our closing song, we wanted to honor Israel because we had Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut this past week. So we're going to end with Bashana Haba'ah. It's on page 652 and just kind of embodies the hope that we have for Israel as a place where everyone can be free and live their lives happily. בשנה הבאה נשב על המרפסת ונצפור ציפורים נודדות. ילדים בחופשה ישחקו תופסת בין הבית לבין השדות. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. בשנה הבאה. ענבים אדומים יבשילו עד הערב ויוגשו צנונים לשולחן, ורוחות רדומים ייסעו עליהם הדרך, עיתונים ישנים כענן. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. בשנה הבאה נפרוס כפות ידיים מול האור הניגר הלבן. ענף הלבנה תפרוס לו כנפיים, והשמש תזרח לתוך הלסיים. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Please join us in the social hall for our Oneg Shabbat.